Hello, everybody, and happy Halloween. I hope that you are looking forward to this day. I hope that this is an opportunity for you to celebrate with your children or your grandchildren or your neighbors' children. Some people celebrate with their pets, dressing them up. I pray that this is a day that reminds you of what it is to be a child. I remember many Halloweens when it was freezing cold and my mom had to adapt our costumes to go over top of our big bulky winter coats and things like that. I also remember Halloweens when it was so warm and that we didn't want to come in. And it wasn't just because we kept getting more candy, but because it really was an excuse to stay out late at night when it was still beautiful and balmy. Halloween is an opportunity that, regardless, it seems for most, not all, of course, but for most people, it sort of transcends or sets aside religious ideas or cultural things. Christmas can be fraught with problems because some children don't celebrate Christmas. Some people see it as completely secular holiday, and so they're okay with it. Other people, they might have, some faithful people who follow their traditions, the Jews and the Muslims, and others might say, well, no, this whole the whole Christmas thing is not what we believe, and some of them believe that Santa Claus also is not something that they should do with their families. And some people who have from other faiths who don't celebrate Christmas as a Christian holiday, but do recognize Santa Claus and have all the gifts for the kids and things like that. But Halloween seems to be, for the most part, and I know there are groups out there who ban it and say it's evil and it's of the devil and things like that. We'll just leave them to their own devices today. But Halloween seems to be one of those occasions that everybody can, for the most part, can get involved in. Now, I have to be in Winnipeg today getting my eyes done as a diabetic every once in a while. They want to check my eyes and make sure that I'm not going blind. And I'm glad because there's something weird happening with my left eye that I don't think is diabetic, but just because I'm getting old. But they'll be able to check it for me. But my appointment's at 1:15 in Winnipeg, and they said the appointment itself will take 2 to 3 hours, and the dilation and all that stuff takes about 6 hours to come out, which means I won't get home to Brandon until after the kiddies have gone to bed. So our lights will be out. There will be no candy available, although our neighbors seem to have lit up their places pretty well. So hopefully they'll get lots from our neighborhood because it's a formerly gated community, so it should be a pretty safe place for kids to trick or treat. But the thing is, this is an opportunity for children and parents, I think, to use their creativity, to think about what you can be. Some people will come out as zombies or, Jason or Freddy Krueger or things like that. Lots of kids will come out looking like hockey players or football players or cheerleaders because it's what they do in life, and that's an easy costume. Some kids will have those costumes you buy at Value Village or at Walmart or Zellers or places like that are all the cute little, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Elsa from Frozen or whatever the latest cartoons are, Moana or something like that. But some kids get really creative. They think about what they want to do. And I think that we should encourage people to think at Halloween about the possibilities that lay ahead for them. When children start talking about, in June, about what I want to be for Halloween, maybe we should encourage them, not necessarily to go with the tried and true, the ghost with the bed sheet or things like that, but to really think about what would you like to do? What would you like to be when you grow up? And I don't mean that kind of pressure where you're in grade 9 or 10 and choosing your courses to determine what college, trade school, or university you're going to go to. But I mean allowing kids to be wild and crazy with their imaginations, because we live in a wild and crazy time. We live in a world where there are still cowboys that ride horses and wrestle up cows. I've seen them traveling through the States. We have cowboys who don't ride horses, but they ride four-wheelers, and the cowboys exist. So if your child says, Mom or Dad, I want to be a cowboy when I grow up, let them dress up for Halloween as a cowboy. Or somebody wants to be a princess. What's wrong with that? I know it's not likely to happen in the real world, but look at Kate Middleton. She wasn't royalty. She was a girl. Now, she came from a very wealthy family and all that stuff, but she met a prince and became a princess and will one day be a queen. If it's happened once, it could happen again. If your little girl wants to grow up to be a princess and wants to dress up as one for Halloween, let her. And you know what the fact is? She might grow up to be a princess in someone's eyes. I'm married to someone who every once in a while makes me feel like I'm the queen of his life. That, of course, brings about the fact that he's the king of the castle, but that's an inside joke. But there are times when, I never thought I'd be a princess when I grew up. And there are times when my husband makes me feel like one. So why not? What about a doctor or a nurse? If your child wants to be a doctor, how difficult would it be to help them find an old white shirt to put on like a lab coat and find a fake stethoscope from the dollar store? Or a clip chart, or one of those eye. Remember back in the 70s when we thought of doctors and they had the band around their head with the eye things that could peer in your throat and stuff like that. What is wrong with encouraging our kids to be creative and thinking about what they want to do with their lives? Why are we so quick to say, "Oh, you can't possibly do that"? Think about the possibilities that lay ahead. I remember when my oldest stepson was probably about 8 or 9, and he was a Lego maniac. He loved Lego. And he did kits, but more often than not, he'd take all the pieces out of kits and create his own stuff. And then one of his grandparents gave him a little camera, a little digital camera for Christmas. And when he came to visit us, because he stayed with his mom, and then we got the boys from Boxing Day to New Year's, when he came to us, he would sit at the dining room table for hours on end with all his pieces of Lego and his camera. And he'd set them up and take a picture, and then move it just a tiny little bit and take a picture. And at the end, he'd have like a 20-second video that showed stop action of his little Lego pieces moving. I remember telling him when he would talk about wanting to do things, I said, maybe you could grow up and work for Lego. Maybe you could be a photographer who does this kind of work for animation. Taking a look at what kids are interested in at a young age and encouraging them to use their creativity, to believe in themselves, to think about what the possibilities might be, that's the greatest gift. That's the greatest Halloween gift we could ever give our kids. I remember getting ready to graduate from university. My undergrad is in English language and literature. It's just such a flexible thing, and people, that's one of those degrees that people talk about when they want to make fun of universities. Well, I was feeling that way about January of my 4th year, getting ready to graduate, and I remember thinking, what the heck am I going to do with this? I missed the deadline for applying to Teachers College, and it was pretty competitive. So I knew I was probably going to either take a year off school or come back and take some more courses to increase some marks and try and actually get my application in. Now, I wasn't just being a dork about missing the deadline. I had been running for student council, which meant that I had to be willing to go back to that school, go back to Brescia the following year. And if I'd applied to Teachers College and gotten in, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Now, I didn't win. I was running for president. I lost by 7 votes, but that was probably the best thing that ever happened, because taking that year off is what prepared me to do my Master of Divinity. That you needed that year for discernment. So it all worked out really well. But I remember thinking in January of my 4th year, what the heck am I going to do? I've got an undergrad, or I'm about to have an undergrad in English language and literature, and I'm not going to Teachers College. Where am I going to get a job? I'm going to work at Kohl's or Chapters? Like, I have a degree. And we had a job fair. And at that job fair, it wasn't really a big job fair. We weren't main campus. We were Brescia, but they had some booths set up and a few people. But on some of the booths, they had like what your degree is, and then they had sheets of paper with different things you could do. And for English language and literature, they had a piece of paper. I don't have one with me right now, but 8.5 by 11. And on front and back, it was completely filled with different jobs that entry jobs you could get with an English language and literature degree. Things like in publishing houses. Things like also teaching, but things like teaching English as a second language. There were tons of things that were like I'd never thought of. There were jobs that you could do in banks, getting into HR and things like that, getting into publicity. There was advertising. I had no idea what the possibilities were until someone said, "Look at what a great job you've done. Here's the world. The world is your oyster. Here, open this up and take a look at this and see all the things you might be able to do." Instead of telling our kids, "Oh, you can't do that," or "You're not smart enough for that," or "You can't do that," what if we said to them, "If this is something you're really interested in, put your heart into it. Really work hard at it, and then we'll figure it out from there." Because the reality is, there are jobs out there that no one thinks about. There is a job out there for someone who paints the lines on the roads. There are jobs out there for people who do the flowers in parks. There are jobs out there for people who are trying to land planes. There are jobs out there for people who have already landed planes and they're trying to land the plane and have someone bring them in. For anywhere we go, it's like watching a duck on the water. The duck looks so peaceful, but the feet are going, the little web feet are going like crazy underneath the water, aren't they? Well, for every place we go, there are unseen jobs. For Walmart, there isn't just the greeter at the door who says, "Hey, how are you? Hope you have a good day," or the people who stock the shelves or help you check out for the self-checkout line, things like that. But there's also the people who stock the shelves, the people who pay the bills, the people who do the paychecks, the people who take care of the building itself, the people who do security. There are all kinds of unseen jobs we don't know anything about. We need to encourage our kids to discover what are their passions, what do they love to do, what are they good at, what are they not good at but love to do anyway, because that's most often the thing that they'll work hard at, is if they love it, they'll learn how to do it better. We need to encourage our kids not just to have fun on Halloween, but to use Halloween as an opportunity to think, where am I going and where might I go next? It's a powerful thing, giving people opportunity, isn't it? Take some opportunities for yourselves, because you could be a 55-year-old who's been laid off from your job, or something else is happening, and the world is still out there looking for you. There are opportunities. You have no idea what they are yet, but they are out there. All you have to do is find them. Have a great day. God bless, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Feel Good Friday.